Caste-based social exclusion is a phenomenon in our country. We know very well that backward castes, scheduled tribes and scheduled castes are facing a lot of social exclusion. Scheduled castes, particularly castes which are considered as untouchable by the rest of the society, are suffering still with various forms of social exclusion. They are not having any opportunities in various fields like political or economic or social or cultural or religious fields. We have taken so many measures to include scheduled caste into the mainstream or routine regular society. These measures are inclusive policies taken up by our society. We can broadly classify them into three different categories. Let us see what are these three different categories. All of you are well aware, our constitution provides a base for all laws, governance as well as how we either include or do any activities or take up various measures for the development of our society. Hence, the first category of inclusive policies are linked with the Constitution of India. These inclusive policies can be described as constitutional safeguards meant for scheduled castes. The second one is when Constitution provides power as well as various facilities for the beneficiaries, that is scheduled castes. It is always the executive, the government, which takes up various schemes, measures, programs and also prepares policies. Hence, the second category of inclusive policies can be termed as governmental measures or executive measures. Besides these two, Constitution provides for the establishment of various institutions and also encourages non-governmental organizations to take up various activities for the benefit of the scheduled castes. These measures, let us classify them as institutional measures. When we prepare for an examination, particularly competitive examinations, we can expect questions on these three different types of measures: constitutional safeguards, various measures taken up by the executive or the government, and various non-governmental organizations which are working for the benefit of the scheduled castes, and also various institutions established by the government under the provisions of the Constitution of India. Let us see various provisions related to protecting scheduled castes in our Constitution. Fundamental rights, all of you are well aware. These fundamental rights provide basis for a variety of constitutional safeguards. Articles 15, 16, 17 we have to remember. Let me start with Article 17, because Article 17 clearly mentions that untouchability is abolished. The article itself is on abolition of untouchability, and on the basis of this article we have also enacted a legislation, namely Untouchability Offences Act of 1955. Any form of untouchability as per Article 17 is abolished, and if any person tries to exclude a person because he is untouchable, then that act is a crime or punishable offence as per the provisions of the Constitution. Article 15 is aimed to have positive discrimination or protective discrimination. Article 15 clearly talks about various groups which were excluded and which are still being excluded by our society should be taken into consideration and should do whatever is needed for the benefit of these communities so that they can be all along with the mainstream. Article 16 also talks about equality provision. Besides these three articles, we have certain other directive principles of state policy like Article 46 or Article 38. These two directive principles of state policy clearly says that the state shall not discriminate between persons on account of their religion or region or caste or class. That means it is clearly mentioned that no person should be excluded on the basis of caste. In other words, people who belong to scheduled caste should not be excluded at all. If they, then that particular act is a punishable offence. Let us say a little bit detailed description of Article 15. Article 15 is very crucial from the viewpoint of our examination. The reason is it talks about protective discrimination. It also talks about various details related to, particularly when we talk about administrative activities, either plan or sub-plan or allotting some funds and all those things usually get their basis from Article 15. Hence, let us have more idea about Article 15. Related to scheduled caste, Article 15 clearly mentions that discrimination is prohibited on grounds of religion, caste, race, sex or place of birth. If any person is excluded because he is not from a particular religion, here this point is very crucial. The reason is many scheduled caste people converted themselves into various other religions in order to avoid social exclusion by Hindus, because we have already discussed about this point. Scheduled caste or untouchability is a culture related concept and it is directly linked with Varna system or caste system prevalent among the Hindus. It is also directly linked with 4 Varnas and 1 Varna completely outside the purview of this Chatur Varna system. Hence, we will be talking about untouchables and their conversion to various other religions. But unfortunately in our country, though they convert themselves into various other religions, they are still considered as untouchables or they are still excluded. Article 15 clearly prohibits any such type of discrimination. That means if any person is excluded on the basis of religion, it is not only Hinduism or any other religion. If religion is taken into consideration, then it is a criminal offence punishable under law. Other important article, once again we have to mention here, that is Article 17, which abolishes untouchability. It is further provided that the enforcement of any disability arising out of untouchability shall be an offence punishable in accordance with law. It is not only excluding a person because that person is untouchable, but various forms of untouchability. For instance, in our last class we talked about various forms of untouchability, where untouchable persons were not allowed to use public roads or public tanks or bathing areas, are not allowed to wear certain types of garments, are not allowed to wear a headgear. Even such offences, such activities also are considered as offences as per Article 17, which abolishes untouchability and also all discriminatory forms linked with the concept of untouchability. One more article is very important for us. Most of the scheduled castes are politically disabled. They are not given any importance in the political scenario. In our country, political scenario is very important because it is always legislature who legislates upon. It is always legislature who says this particular act should be enacted and should be implemented, and on the basis of legislature's activities, that is acts only, executive works or judiciary also interprets all these legislations. So, rule making power is given to the legislature. Political representation should be given to the scheduled caste, or else what happens? A particular sector of our population will not be taking part in the legislation making or rule making and also various other activities related to legislative process. In order to provide opportunities for representation for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, Article 330 provides some safeguards. You are well aware, we are having bicameral system in our country. We have at central level Parliament or House of the People. We call it as Lok Sabha. Since ours is a bicameral one, Rajya Sabha also we have to mention. Similar structure we come across even at state level. State Vidhana Sabhas also in most of the states are having 2 houses. Article 330 reserves certain seats in both Parliament as well as state level legislature. That means Lok Sabha as well as state Vidhana Sabhas or state legislative assemblies. Of course, this provision is not exclusively for scheduled castes, it also covers scheduled tribes, but here many scheduled caste people are able to enter into the threshold of our legislative process because of this particular article. Another article which is very important for the benefit of scheduled castes is Article 46. Most of the scheduled caste people are educationally backward. We know pretty well that many scheduled caste people are not able to send their children to school because of their economic disability or lack of schools, or the behavior shown by the rest of the society towards the scheduled caste children. Even scheduled caste youth also are not that educated compared to other castes. In order to improve the position of scheduled castes, the first and foremost need is to improve their educational standards, or educational backwardness should be removed. Article 46 plays a vital role in this particular activity. It promotes educational and economic interests of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes and other weaker sections. Here other weaker sections include minorities and other backward classes. But here many schools are established because of Article 46. Right to education, very recently Supreme Court has given a judgment related to right to education, and even this also could happen because of Article 46 which is there in our constitution. Article 334 is another article which talks about reservation of seats and special representation, and for how many years it can be there, and in other words it creates a target time. Within that particular time we expect that all scheduled castes should be economically, educationally, culturally, civilly, religiously and socially should be forward or developed. The reason is Article 334 talks about a time period. It says it relates to reservation of seats and special representations will be seized after 50 years. But still we are continuing because still we are having many scheduled caste people still economically, educationally and culturally backward. Article 339 empowers the President to appoint a commission, a special commission, national level commission will be appointed by the President for the administration of various provisions meant for safeguarding and protecting the scheduled classes, scheduled castes. We have an idea about various constitutional provisions so far. We talked about different articles and we also talked about what those articles say, how these articles protect scheduled castes. Let us have some kind of exercise here. Let us see one question. Reservation of seats for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes is dealt with which part of the constitution? This is the question. Let us see alternative answers. Answer A is 12th part of Constitution of India. Answer B, 13th part of Constitution of India. Answer C, 14th part of Constitution of India. Answer D, 16th part of Constitution of India. These are schedules. We know very well that whenever any caste is suffering with certain disabilities, it is backward, then President, in consultation with the government of that particular state, can include that caste in the scheduled caste list appended to the constitution. So, this question is on that. Article 17 abolishes untouchability. On the basis of this article, in the year 1955, an enactment is enacted upon, which is termed as the Untouchability Offences Act of 1955. And this act came into force from May 1955. Of course, this enactment was subsequently amended many times and renamed also. In the year 1976, it is renamed as the Protection of Civil Rights Act of 1955. Not only that, immediately after 1955, the government wanted to know how this particular enactment is working, how much benefit it could gain in providing benefits as well as developmental opportunities for the scheduled castes. In the year 1955, a committee was constituted in order to understand and analyze the impact of Untouchability Offences Act under the chairmanship of Mr. Elia Perumal. And Elia Perumal submitted his report after a year. In that report, he said, though we are having an enactment, not much benefit we could achieve or not much outcome we could achieve. From that time onwards, we are trying to legislate upon this topic as well as create so many new legislations and take so many beneficial programs for the benefit of scheduled castes. In this context, let us say some other legislations also. For instance, the Scheduled Castes and the Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act came into existence in the year 1989, and it came into force or it came into effect from 1990, which is amended in the year 2015 very recently. Now presently two major enactments are there. One is Protection of Civil Rights Act, second one is Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes Against Atrocities Act. Most of the scheduled castes are suffering with violence and violent attitudes by the rest of the society. We call them as atrocities against scheduled castes. These atrocities are many. They are not mere not allowing them to take water from common public well or not allowing them to go to a temple and all that. They are more than that. They are not allowed to cultivate if any land is given to them, or they are not allowed to send their children to schools. They are not given any chance to go and have some health facilities. Sometimes they are killed also because they belong to scheduled castes. A variety of atrocities are being committed against them. In order to control these atrocities, we have enacted in the year 1989, which is very recently amended, that is Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act. When we talk about other legislations, here we may also have to talk about one institution, particularly when the institution came into existence, the basis for that institution, that is National Commission for Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes Act. It was set up under Article 383 of the Constitution, the year 1990, and later it is bifurcated into two separate national commissions, one for scheduled tribes and another for scheduled castes. And for Scheduled Castes Commission came into existence exclusively from 2003 onwards as per 83rd Amendment for the Constitution of our country. These legislations throw some light on how the legislature is legislating upon in order to reduce atrocities against the scheduled caste, and also in order to improve the position of scheduled caste, and in order to improve the position, how to map them, what type of problems they are facing, how to identify them, what type of policy we are supposed to prepare. In order to prepare that policy, some kind of background work, all these aspects will be covered by these legislations. Let us see how a question can be given all these aspects. The Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribe Act is a special provision for the advancement of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, which is based on which one of the following doctrines. Here we should have some light upon these doctrines. Constitution provides so many aspects, but how we interpret them is a question. Some of the provisions are liberally interpreted, some of the provisions are not liberally interpreted. For instance, Article 15 is there. Article 15 Clause 1 or Clause 2 or Clause 3 or Clause 4 meant for liberal interpretation, and here we follow certain doctrines. These doctrines are juristic doctrines or legal doctrines which help us to understand the meaning of a particular provision either from the Constitution of India or any other legislation. On the basis of which doctrine we are understanding the scope of various legislations. This is the idea behind the question. Let us see what doctrines are given as answers. The first one is doctrine of preferred position, and the second doctrine is doctrine of harmonious construction, doctrine of severability, and the fourth one is doctrine of protective or positive discrimination. Article 14 and 15 clearly say that no person should be differentiated or discriminated on the basis of caste or class or race or gender or reason or religion. But in our country, some of the castes are excluded and they have been suffering with a variety of discrimination or discriminatory forms. Hence, constitutional makers thought that there is a need to follow the doctrine of positive discrimination in order to protect them. Here the discrimination is accepted because it is having a positive aspect. Here the positive aspect is for the benefit of a downtrodden, excluded or underclass, where the government is under a duty to develop them. Hence, our answer would be the last one, that is doctrine of positive or protective discrimination, that is D. Let us see another question. Under the Protection of Civil Rights Act of 1955, all offences are, certain answers are there. Let us see. Answer A, cognizable offence. Answer B, bailable offence. Answer C, compoundable offence. And answer D, it can be punished with imprisonment and fine and both. When we talk about offences under our penal laws, we broadly classify them into various categories. If any person is arrested, if he can be given a bail either by the police officer or by the court, then that offence is a bailable offence. If such bail cannot be given, then that offence is not a bailable offence. All bailable offences are very serious offences. Cognizability means taken into consideration. Offences can be classified into non-cognizable and cognizable offences. When any complaint is given, on the basis of complaint, if any person, police officer goes and arrests a person then that also is known as taking cognizance. But without any complaint also, as per our procedural laws related to penal laws, police officers are expected to see whenever any form of discrimination is going on, then they have to take action against that discrimination or form of discrimination, and such situation is known as cognizability. Offences under Protection of Civil Rights Act are linked with discrimination or showing untouchability or belittling person or excluding a person. There is no need to give any complaint, there is no need to have any complaint. We, that is the police as well as government, under a duty to check all these forms of discriminations. Hence, our answer would be cognizable offence. Compoundable offence means if any complaint is given, later the complainant takes back that complaint, then there is no criminal case, and Protection of Civil Rights Act will not accept this. Whether you are aware of it or not aware of it, if you are showing any discrimination against a scheduled caste, then it is an offence, and most of the offences will be punished with imprisonment or fine or both. Even Protection of Civil Rights Act also talks about this imprisonment as well as fine. But the more relevant answer would be cognizability, or answer A. The reason is the aim of Protection of Civil Rights Act is to completely remove any form of discrimination shown towards the scheduled caste. Hence, our answer is cognizability, or answer A. Let us see one more question here. If any offence is committed under Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act, that shall be investigated by a police officer. Here, whenever we talk about investigation of penal offences, we usually see the rank of a police officer, which police officer is empowered to investigate that particular offence. The more the serious the offence, the higher the rank of the police officer. Let us see the answers. Answer A, Sub-Inspector. Answer B, Inspector. Answer C, Deputy Superintendent of Police. Answer D, Superintendent of Police. Since offences under Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act are very serious, our answer would be Deputy Superintendent of Police. This itself shows the seriousness of offence under Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act. When we see these legislations, we are expected to prepare various provisions, various punishments linked with if any offences are mentioned in the Act, the procedural aspects of various legislations. If it is related to National Commission, then structure of National Commission, how many members are going to be there, or how many years they are going to be in office, what type of functions they are expected to do, all these we have to prepare, because there may be questions on all these structural functional aspects related to the legislations. Let us see one more question related to these legislations. Who has or have the power of making rules for carrying out the provisions of Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act? First answer is the state government. Second answer is the central government. Third answer is both state government as well as central government, both A and B. And answer D is the Supreme Court. This enactment is enacted by the Parliament and national level enactment. It is not a state level act. Hence, our answer would be the central government, because in all these legislations rule making power will be given to either to the central government or the state government. Most of the scheduled caste people are not able to improve their economic position. This is due to many reasons. They are mostly landless agricultural laborers, or their education levels are very less. Their occupations also are mostly dirty or unclean occupations which can provide very less or meager income. But slowly, because of various welfare measures, even scheduled castes or Dalits also are entering into various business enterprises or entrepreneurship activities. But what they require is some kind of know-how or some kind of mechanism which can provide technical know-how or marketing strategies or how best they can utilize their entrepreneurship potential. We have established an institution, the Dalit Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, in order to provide all these aspects to the Dalits. It is an Indian association which promotes business enterprise for Dalits. Very recently, we have established this institution. It is established in the year 2005 by Mr. Milind Kamble. A question may be given, who is the present chairperson of the Dalit Chamber of Commerce, or what are the duties of Dalit Chamber of Commerce, or what type of outcome we have received so far by this particular Chamber of Commerce, or how many members are there as members in this Dalit Chamber, or the link between various federations of or chambers of commerce and Dalit Chamber. So, we may expect questions on these also. Another institution which is very crucial in order to understand the position of scheduled castes is National Commission for Scheduled Castes. National Commission is another important constitutional body. Our constitution provides for this and it is established for the benefit of the scheduled castes, and it is aimed to promote various interests of scheduled castes. It is also aimed to protect the scheduled castes in various fields. Let us see what all these fields are. Let us try to enumerate them. First field is, it is aimed to reduce disabilities in social field. It is aimed to promote the educational needs of scheduled castes. It is also expected to take care of economic needs of the scheduled castes. It is also expected to provide benefits so that cultural disabilities can be reduced or cultural interests. So, on these 4 lines, National Commission for Scheduled Castes tries to promote as well as tries to protect the scheduled castes, and since it is a constitutional body, its weightage also is very high. When we prepare for National Commission, we are expected to learn about the constitution, the present chairperson of National Commission, who are the members, what type of decisions so far it has taken. These details it is better to prepare. The first National Commission for Scheduled Caste was constituted in the year 2004. The first National Commission for Scheduled Caste was constituted in the year 2004 with Suraj Bhan as the chairperson. The second National Commission for Scheduled Castes in the same series was constituted in the month of May 2007 with Mr. Bhuta Singh as the chairperson. The third National Commission for Scheduled Castes has been constituted in the month of October 2010 with Mr. P.L. Punia as the chairperson. The fourth National Commission for Scheduled Castes has been constituted in the year 2013, which is still running, with once again Mr. P.L. Punia as the chairperson. When we talk about National Commission, we may sometimes talk about National Commission for Scheduled Tribes also. The reason here is some of the scheduled tribes tried to enter into the caste system, and some of them are declared as scheduled castes also in some parts of our country. Hence, we may expect some questions even on National Commission for Scheduled Tribes. Not only that, even among the scheduled tribes also, the Varna hierarchy or caste hierarchy has entered into. So, within the national tribe or some kind of scheduled tribe, sometimes some kind of discrimination will be shown towards certain groups. Particularly this happens when a tribe is highly developed. In such a situation, even that discrimination also is a punishable offence. Let us have some idea about this. National Commission for Scheduled Tribes was constituted, and here we will be talking about which amendment or which article of the Constitution. The first answer is on the basis of 65th Constitutional Amendment. Then the second answer is on the basis of Article 338 of the Constitution. Third answer is on the basis of Article 340 of the Constitution. And last one is on the basis of public representation. Last answer is a big no. The reason is public, particularly national tribes or scheduled tribes and scheduled castes are not at all in a position to give any public representation. That much awareness is not there amongst them. Hence, D is not a correct answer. Remaining three answers, let us see. 340 talks about President's power to declare either a community or any group of community as a scheduled tribe. Similarly, Article 338 talks about once again powers given to various authorities, President and others. Hence, the remaining answer is the first answer, answer A, that is 65th Amendment Act of the Constitution of India has given power to the President to establish National Commission for Scheduled Tribes. Here scheduled tribes is given in order to give some kind of confusion in the minds of the student. The reason is previously only one commission was there, but after the amendment this commission is bifurcated into National Commission for Scheduled Tribes and Scheduled Castes. The bifurcation occurred because of which amendment is the correct answer. So, such tricky questions also sometimes we may get. Let us see one more question on this. What are the powers of National Commission for Scheduled Castes? Answer A is Commission has power of a criminal court with respect to various atrocities shown towards the scheduled caste persons, particularly in examining witnesses. The second answer is National Commission can regulate its own procedure, it can have its own procedure. Third answer is state governments are required to consult whenever the commission is taking up any major policy matters affecting the scheduled castes. And the last answer is both B and C, that is commission can have its own procedure and commission is expected to consult or ask the state government whenever any major policy is being prepared by the commission. Commission is a constitutional body, hence it can have its own procedure. Commission is expected to prepare policies for the upliftment of scheduled castes. Keeping these two ideas in your mind, you can choose the answer, and obviously the answer would be the last one, that is both B and C. That is Commission having its own procedure and Commission consulting the state government whenever any major policy is being prepared by the Commission. Let us see what type of welfare schemes and measures we are having for the benefit of the scheduled castes. These welfare measures can be broadly classified into two categories. Let us say these measures can be classified on the basis of which part of the government is taking care of, whether central government or state government. Hence, we have central government schemes. We also have schemes taken up by the state government. Most of the schemes meant for scheduled tribes, scheduled castes and other backward classes are same. Under central government, we can broadly classify these programs into once again two categories, where the entire funding will be given by the central government or some grants will be given by the central government either to the state governments or non-governmental organizations. State governments as well as central governments are expected to take up various activities for the benefit of educational achievement, health-wise development, economic achievement of the scheduled castes. We will be talking about pre as well as post metric scholarships. We also have programs where scheduled caste children, if they would like to improve their education, go for higher education or go to any other country for their educational betterment, then we have some programs both under central government schemes as well as state government schemes. We also have programs linked with economic development of the scheduled castes. Here we can make a mention of subsidies or providing loans through either National Bank of Agriculture and Rural Development or various other banks, by taking which scheduled caste persons can improve their economic position, take up various economic pursuits and have remunerative income. When we talk about health aspects, we talk about the establishment of free medical aid related to various diseases. In all these programs, central government provides 100% grant for some to the state governments. State governments will implement all these programs. Not only that, state governments also asks for some grants from the central government if any specific programs are going to be started by any one particular state government. We also have funding programs by the central government where non-governmental organizations will be funded. Not only that, a kind of sector-wise funding also will be given by the central government. For instance, we have scholarships meant for children up to 10th class, because up to 10th class free education is there. We also have various institutions, governmental educational institutions established exclusively for scheduled caste children, where professional education also will be given. Here we can mention one example of having book bank. If any professional course is there, from either central or state government funds, books will be given to the children free of cost. The ratio is 1 book is to 2 students. Accordingly, all higher educational institutions are expected to have books so that scheduled caste children can continue their education, can improve their educational attainment or scholastic achievement. When we go to the state government, most of the programs are taken up by the central government and will be implemented by the state government. Whether it is scholarships, whether it is establishing boys hostels or girls hostels, whether it is having educational institutions for professional courses, or whether establishing primary health centers or recruiting doctors or having transport mechanisms so that people from remote villages also can go to a nearby place and have health facilities, or having residential schools, or providing free books, or providing some kind of remedy related to tuition fee. All these are mostly central funded, mostly centrally directed activities. But besides this, each state is having certain specific programs also, including our state. Even Telangana state also is having many programs. All the programs which are prepared by the central government are being implemented even in our state. But besides that, some programs are given much importance in our Telangana state. Let us see few of them, not all but few of them. The first and foremost one is linked with education. Ambedkar Overseas Vidya Nidhi. In order to help the scheduled caste students to pursue higher education in foreign universities, this program is introduced, Ambedkar Overseas Vidya Nidhi, and financial assistance of rupees 10 lakhs each is sanctioned to people, particularly meritorious students. It is not to all students, but only meritorious students will be considered for this program. During the year 2015 and 16, in our state, an amount of 10.50 crores rupees is released for the benefit of 315 meritorious scheduled caste students. That means under this program in our state, we are able to improve the scholastic achievement of people, particularly scholastic achievement in higher education field of at least 315 scheduled caste students. Let us see some other programs also taken up by this Telangana state government. Kalyana Laxmi Pathakam. The government of Telangana envisions the overall development of scheduled castes and particularly unmarried girls belonging to the poor scheduled caste families as well as communities. And we are well aware that they are from disadvantaged sections of the society. In order to help these disadvantaged sections, particularly protect them from financial distress, Telangana government has taken up a program where a financial assistance will be given at the time of marriage of an unmarried scheduled caste girl. And accordingly, Kalyana Laxmi scheme came into existence and it came into effect from October month onwards. Here, it is specifically mentioned two aspects, that is, girls' age at marriage should be 18 years. Why this is? Because one of the criterion for backwardness is child marriage. Here, child marriages will not be allowed under this scheme. Kalyana Laxmi Pathakam will be useful only when the girl's age at marriage is more than 18 years. And this scheme is applicable to those parents whose annual income does not exceed more than 2 lakhs rupees. In most of the cases, scheduled castes will be taking loans from others in order to do lifestyle or life related ceremonies, including marriage of their daughters. Kalyana Laxmi scheme can reduce this loan burden on scheduled castes and particularly economically disadvantaged groups. Let us see another program. This is linked with land purchase and agricultural development. Most of the scheduled caste persons in our state are landless agricultural laborers or agricultural laborers having very small holdings of agricultural land. Many times they are not able to cultivate them in a better way. There will not be any profit for them also. In order to reduce this, the government of our state has started a land purchase scheme. Under this scheme, agricultural land, particularly 3 acres of land, can be assigned to the scheduled castes, and this scheme is named as Bhumi Leni Nirupeda Dalitula Vyavasaya Adharita Kutumbalu. So, here we are referring only those landless poor agricultural laborers from the Dalit caste or scheduled castes, and this scheme is launched on 15th August of 2014 by our Honorable Chief Minister. Under this scheme, various financial help will be provided, particularly for scheduled caste beneficiaries. They can have land and they can also dig bore wells, or they can also go for drip irrigation. They can do various activities linked with agricultural development, in other words economic development of the scheduled castes. First phase of this particular program is having certain details. For instance, half acre, 1 acre and 2 acres will be provided to the landless scheduled caste agricultural laborers, and balance owners whoever are there, then they will be considered in the next phase. That means agricultural laborers who are having more than 1 acre, 2 acres and 3 acres, or 3 acres and more than 3 acres will be considered in the next phase. So, such programs are taken up by our state government. These are only few programs as a kind of example I have mentioned here. Even in our state also, we have established many schools, educational institutions, hostels both for girls as well as boys, and post pre-matric scholarships are given, book bank facilities are there for the educational development. But here what we have to remember is, despite having all these programs, still many scheduled caste families are suffering with a variety of disabilities. Unless and until each person from our society starts taking care of not excluding a person and including scheduled caste people, all these disabilities cannot vanish.